I don't like your tone, sir. No, I'm kidding. I love your tone. It's wonderful. So definitely do it today. Anybody returned it in already? I bet. Yes, yes. That's why I put them up. As soon as they're posted, you can turn them in. You can turn them multiple times if you want to. The current record for submissions is held by a 105 student. 7. Took them 7 submissions before they finally got what they wanted me to see. I opened up one day. Blackboard always tells you have this many submissions to grade. I opened it up and it said, you have 126 submissions to grade. I'm like, my class has 40 people in it. How do I have 126? And for something happened that week, and everybody did it twice, except for this one student did it 7 times. I was like, holy hell. So, and Blackboard's been a little weird this week, apparently. Apparently, the entire country lost it on Tuesday. You might remember Tuesday was a wonderful day. That's when Blackboard went down. You do the math.
On the 3rd day, Blackboard went down.
Exactly. And on the 4th day, we had a lot of coffee and celebrated. So, okay. Yes, get that journal in. I'll get these warm-ups and whatever we do in class today, which actually we probably won't get to the next lab today, which is okay. We're not going to rush it. I left stacks of notes on a lot of your desks. I think I kind of stacked them. If everybody would just grab a stack of notes, that's what I want to kind of start into next. Yes, we might need more stacks, and I have extra copies somewhere. Where did I put the extra copies? Back here. Thank you, friends. Thank you. Yes. That's perfect. If you could hand a stapler around and or a 3-hole punch, that'd be great. You're welcome. Anybody else need a stack of notes? Tyler probably does. I'm thinking.
Is this for our textbook?
Exactly. This is the next chapter of your textbook, so to speak. Yes, next chapter of your textbook. Isaac, you got yours? Here we go. We got one more stack up here. Anybody missing a stack of notes?
There's one extra one.
There's one extra. Good. I'm going to save the extras in case anybody misses today. There we go. Good, good. Is anybody lacking a stack of negative numbers notes? It should be like 4 or 5 pages. I'm not exactly sure how many. 5. Looks like there's 5 pages, single-sided. Because I hate trees.
I just want to get home and eagerly look out the window for my
Yes, looks like we're handing around, this is good, we're handing around staplers, we also have 3-hole punch. Take your time, get them into a form you like. What they should do, I don't know, look at this. Oh no, it's not single-sided. No, it's double-sided. Yeah. It's not, but you know what I should do? Is put more margins. You can punch through those. That's a
I don't know. Like, it's always about
There we go.
I forced my CrossFit class on Tuesday to play soccer with the whole workout. They ran through the back.
oh,
But we can't play soccer.
It's like a super
Well, I call it CrossFit.
I'm bringing my super charger.
Part of me regrets it, but if I
Apparently, it's a lot of fun. I'm still sore from Tuesday. All right, my friends, what I'd like you to do first is just read the first paragraph or so down to the parenthetical part. It's interesting that today we use the opposite colors for positive and negative. And then just give me a look up here and make sure you got the chance to read all that, and then we'll regroup and go from there. While you're doing that, I will get the board ready. Yes. I just stopping at the parentheses for now. I did find it interesting, the red versus the black in that, which is backwards from how we do it. Now, in the red means a bad thing, and in the black means a good thing, as far as finances go, which is interesting. I don't expect you to understand how the lines make sense. This is a totally different way of. Has anybody ever used an abacus? This is a stupid question. Anybody ever used an abacus?
That's what I was gonna say.
It's-
Exactly
it-
like an
It totally does. Yeah, I realized as I was asking the question, has anybody ever used one of those? We have. Oh my goodness, this is great. Okay, so I thought I was the only person left in the world that had actually used one. It's probably something like that, Kate. Absolutely. And it's super convenient. Using an abacus is a really, really quick way of counting. I thought about how to bring it into Math 58, and I realized I'm like, it's a great thing, but so is learning Latin, and nobody wants to do that either. So, yeah, so you have to kind of pare down the great things to useful and great things. Okay. So, red and black, negative numbers. I guarantee some of you have dealt with negative numbers before. But the thing about it is, there's still enough about negative numbers that is weird. If you haven't, don't worry. I'm going to make the assumption you haven't, if that's okay. There's enough about negative numbers that makes us think and kind of process. So that's why we made it part of Math 98. I noticed that stat students were having a hard time processing what negative numbers imply and how to work with negative numbers. So I wanted to kind of make sure we boned that up a little bit before getting to 105 and beyond. Okay, everybody try 1 through 7 on your own or with your groups.
Wow.
Yes. Hi.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I actually like the break. Please.
No, you stay. I'm kidding.
So,
You want to grab homework when you do?
yeah, but
Yes.
I also want to use the coupon thing that I don't have.
Oh, let's go grab that right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. See, I already forgot we talked about that, man.
Is this just subtraction?
Yeah, right back.
Is that all it is?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't be missing class. Filming Word. I just got like a cold back on 16 pages. I don't think you guys need to see that. Yeah.
Hey, just stop at number 7 for a second. Because I want to get the numbers first and then we'll chat.
It's tough to wait. Yeah.
I'm just going to visit, make sure we're all.
It's just a negative.
I got -1, which is a negative number. That's it, let's just do that.
I know.
Okay, looks like we all got a chance to get through number 7. Okay. Okay, let's do them together. 10 minus 1. Number 1, 10 minus 1. 10 minus 2. 10 minus 3. You're bored. 10 minus 8. 10 minus 9. 10 minus 10. 10 minus 11. I need a bigger version of this. It needs to be closer to the front. Maybe we just need more than one of them. Yes. I do it backwards. Yeah, a little bit weird.
Dude, you're making this too real slow.
Because you're subtracting flashbacks.
Okay, so I got to vote. I like this answer. I've got to vote for. We're subtracting a number that's larger than the first one. I like that answer. We're subtracting a number larger than the first one. So if you think about 10 minus 1, 1 is being taken away from 10. So if you take 10 things and view subtraction as removing them, you take away 1, there's 9 left. You take away 2, there's 8 left. You take away 8, there's 2 left. The problem runs into if you have 10 things and take away 10, you've got none left. What happens if you take away 1 more, which is the problem in number 7? And this is interesting. The history of negative numbers, the Egyptians thought they didn't even have negative numbers because it didn't make any sense to them. Egyptians only used math, or primarily used math, for farming and building. Negative numbers made no sense for them. You can't make a negative field. Like you can't have negative acreage. And when the Euphrates River swells or drops, it can't drop down past 0. If it's 0, there's no water in it. You can't have negative water in a river. And you can't have negative corn. If your crop fails, how much corn did you get? You got 0 years of corn. But the problem is, negative numbers are actually useful. Not for those. I mean, yes, absolutely. For those applications, they don't make any sense at all. Can anybody think of an application of negative numbers in this case?
Owing money,
Say that again.
owing money.
Talk to me about this.
Well,
Give me an example.
if you have $10.
Yes, okay, so look at this.
$10, and then you need another dollar, so you borrow it from a friend, you owe them $1.
Okay, so you owe them $1. But wouldn't that be a positive number for them? I guess not really, because they're down $1 too. Yeah, okay, I like that example. That's really, really good. That's really, really good. So owing money, that's a good one. That's a good one. Anybody, any other applications of negatives? Please.
Technically, you could be in negative corn, because if you,
Go ahead.
if you have a corn problem, and you owe, if I owe Joshua corn,
Yes.
and I owe him 2 corns, when my corn is rebirthed, and I have 10 corns, and then
And you give him
I owe him 2.
2.
Yeah.
You really only have 8 corn. So technically, you're using corn like money. I like that. No. It's barter.
Yeah.
It's barter, which I think operates the same, but I love that. That's a great idea. A negative 2 corn. When you said I have 2 corns, I thought of my feet. I'm like, oh God, if I have corns. But yes, you can keep track of the United States government, for better or worse, does it every year. They deficit spend. Our United States debt right now is something like $22 trillion. That means we have overspent what we've brought in over the past, I think it's only been that way, it's only been over $1 trillion since Jimmy Carter, which is like 1980 or so. Go ahead, Joshua.
But isn't gold just determined on like an evaluated worth?
Say that again.
Isn't gold just determined on the evaluated worth? So we can just change the worth of gold when we change it?
That sounds like what happened in Italy when the lira went to the roof and they had to redefine their... Yes, you could do that. You could do that. I think America does that in some way by declaring bankruptcy, when businesses declare bankruptcy and restructure their debt. I've always wondered about that. Like this business, I just read about this company called Forever 21, apparently. They declared bankruptcy. They did. That doesn't mean they're going away. See, this is what people were confused. Like I saw the headline, I never heard of this before. Apparently you had. I'm sorry I didn't mean to bring you that. So Forever 21 was declaring bankruptcy, and then everybody's like, oh my God, I love that store. They're not going away. They're restructuring their debt. So they went from having, I think it was $4 billion of debt or something like that, to $2 billion. And my first question is, okay, so they were negative $4 billion. Now they're going to be negative $2 billion. Where did the other $2 billion go? So it's kind of like their gold idea. I don't really understand bankruptcy all that much.
But maybe it's like an emotional debt, like y'all look at now. because-
Yeah, but it was dollars.
Yeah.
It was like emotional
No, not
dollars.
like an emotional debt, but like where the other two something goes, or like.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know. I don't really understand bankruptcy
If you're
law.
like a human and you do bankruptcy, like, doesn't it like destroy your credit and?
Oh, no, for sure. Yes. I'm not saying that this company is now going to be in good shape because of that. But they're not going away. They still run the company. They have to restructure how they run the company. And I would imagine in a fair world, they would then have, it would be your corn example again. In a fair world, they'd have to pay back the $2 billion. This is what happened with, I believe, Chrysler, GM, and Ford back 10 years ago when they declared they needed help, but they got bailed out by the government. So they borrowed hundreds of millions of dollars and they ended up paying that back. So they got back to 0. So this is back when W was leading office and Obama was coming in. Same idea. So negative numbers have lots of financial implications. Very good, very good. I threw a number line on your notes just because that seems to be a pretty convenient way of actually dealing with the necessity of negative numbers. For years, and when I say years, I mean thousands of years ago, the first number on a number line was this one. 1. Can anybody think of why 1 was considered to be the smallest number for years and years and years? And I'm talking like literally thousands of years ago. Jonah?
0 isn't a number.
Because people thought 0 didn't make any sense to even call it a number, because if you don't have anything, you don't have anything, which means you have nothing. But they had a hard time processing what nothing meant. Like nothing didn't mean anything. I'm saying the same thing over and over again. But you have to realize that 3,000, 4,000 years ago, the concept of having nothing was meaningless. You had to have something to have value. So the least thing, I have a clip. I have something, I have one clip. One clip, that's the smallest. If I get one more, then I have 2 clips. And then I have 3. And here's the other interesting part. For a long time, there wasn't even a number line. It was a number series of dots, like this. Because if you're going to have a field full of corn, you have one field full of corn. Now let's suppose you go to war with your neighbor, beat the crap out of him, you take his field. Don't do this, please. Now you've got 2 fields of corn. So you went from 1 to 2. So what are these numbers in between? Well, the trick question. Because for a long time there were no numbers in between. Fractions didn't exist originally. We simply counted. I've got cattle. There's cattle in my field. I see 18. I'm going to steal 2 of my neighbors. Now I have 20. 20. Can you have half a cattle? I mean, actually, I guess you can. I mean, it wouldn't last very long. I guess you have to eat it. Sorry about vegetarians and vegans, I apologize. But the point is that halves and thirds and things like that didn't even mean anything. For a while. But then all of a sudden you realize, holy hell, we need halves. Why do we need things like fractions? Why do we need halves and thirds? Isaac!
Well, if they have a field of corn and like some of them are eaten, but they're not eaten all the way, then how do you count
Exactly! What if you lose, you got a field that's as big as this room, but for whatever reason, the left side of the field gets overrun with vermin or with disease or something, and you manage to stop it by however you manage to stop it. You have to express how much of the corn you've lost. And that's where fractions like half came from. We lost half our corn to pestilence, or that's a great word to use, no, pestilence. Pestilence. That's a good word. Anyway, so all kinds of numbers, and then eventually 0. 0. And if I think it was the Mayans. I'm going to say it was the Mayans. I could be wrong about this. I think the Mayans were the first culture to identify that we needed to have a number that meant nothing. Not just the idea that if you have nothing, you're useless. But the idea that 0 is actually legit. It's a starting point. But the problem was, what if you need to represent going back? And money is always what people come back to. It's always back to money. It always makes sense to talk about money. Because it makes sense, because you can owe someone something. This is the whole idea of credit. You take a credit card loan out, or you open a credit card, and you charge against that. Technically speaking, you're in the hole for that plus interest. You have to repay it back to get back to 0. Thank you. Good. All right, good. Let's look at the next page. Now, back page. Now, some of these are going to be very simple. Very, very simple as we go through. And hopefully they get more challenging as we go through the notes. But I want to kind of break back our ideas of negative numbers, but I want to bring them all the way back to the stuff we know from positive numbers. So let's look at number 9. I'm asking you 10 plus 5. I think we know the answer to this. But I want you to explain to me a procedure for how you do 10 plus 5. What does it actually mean? What does 10 plus 5 mean? 10 plus 5. What is it equal to?
15.
And why is it equal to 15?
Moving 5 right up the number line.
Thank you. When you say up, what direction is that, my friend? I love it. Right. So let's use both those words interchangeably. When we say up, it means the same thing as when we say right. Yes? So if you start at 10 and we have to add 5, we have to shift the location of 10 5 more. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Is that believable? I know some of you are like, Sean, this is the second grade. I totally get it. But I want to break it back to that because negative numbers are the same way. So I put negative numbers rule number 1. Hopefully that's not too wordy. When you add a positive number to any number, move to the right or up. I like up to. Right or up. As many spaces as that positive number tells you to move. Let's see what happens when we start missing negative numbers. Negative 10 plus 5. We have to vote for negative 5. Is it because it followed the rule? Yes. I have a this is kind of, I should have asked this question earlier, I probably ruined it now. If I just asked you to do negative 10 plus 5, how would you have done it? Would you have thought about it like a number line, moving the number, or would you have just done it in your head? Isaac, go ahead.
I actually subtract, I take 10 and I switch the sign to -5 because that makes most sense to me in my head. And so then I would take.
So you do 10 minus 5 to get
Yeah,
5.
And I put the negative sign in front of it.
And then you put the negative sign in front of it. Okay. Does anybody else do it that way as well? You actually do. I hear sometimes? Is that what I said? Sometimes? Annie, sometimes? Okay. No disrespect with this answer I'm about to give you. None given. The word sometimes scares me in a math class. Why do you think the word sometimes scares me in a math class?
It's not like probably actually knowing something, it's like using it when it's.
And I don't even want to say that much. It might be that's how your brain works, but that might not be how somebody else's brain works, and I don't want to teach something that's super specific to one person's brain and make somebody else one of those. I look for something that's more universally true and try to break it down to just that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like when I'm with budgeting.
I thought it's all good, it's all good. But when you're doing it that way, when I just described it and you just described it, you have to keep track of the signs.
Yeah.
You have to know, like, okay, it's 10 minus 5, but then I gotta make it negative because the bigger number is negative. When in actuality, the bigger number is actually the smaller number. In reality, negative 10 is actually smaller than 5, right? And you know that because negative 10's down here and 5's over here. So it's okay though, but it works for you, you keep doing it. I'm not gonna tell you, don't change your ways because of what we're talking about today. Okay, so here we are, negative 10, we've gotta add 5. And there's our result. So you see, whether you start with a negative or a positive, adding a positive to that moves it to the right. You're buying this out. Okay, we're buying it. Yes. Talk to me, Trish.
Are we gonna be doing the line too?
The line.
What is it, a cat, bot graph? It's like a certain type of graph, it's like a line graph, and there's like a circle and a line.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. And I think the answer is no. When you do something like this, and then this,
Yeah.
no, you're not doing that. That confuses the hell out of students, and it really has no place in this course, or 105 or beyond for that matter. That's definitely an algebraic thing that works really, really well for algebra, but not so much in this. Yes. That's, some students like that, for sure. And once you kind of see how it works, it becomes kind of patterned. But it's not connected to much of what we do in this class, unfortunately. So, cool, thank you for that question. How about negative 5 plus 5? We're looking at number 11 now. Sorry. Pretend you're an ancient Egyptian and you encounter this problem. That's a trick question. You wouldn't. They didn't have negatives. See if you're paying attention. Negative 5 plus 5. What do you got? I would vote for 0.
Pull each other
So
out.
when you add a negative number, you put that number.
Okay. So Zach just said something I was not expecting, but I love to hear. He said when you add a negative number, you move left on the number line. But are we really adding a positive number here? Are we adding positive 5 to negative 5? So Zach, let's look at this 2 different ways. Let's start with negative, let's look at it exactly as it is. Negative 5 plus 5 like that, is that okay? So really we're starting at negative 5, which is here. And we're moving 5 spaces to the, and we're at 0. This follows negative numbers rule number 1, does it not? Hopefully it makes sense. But Zach, you said when you add a negative number, you move to the left, which I agree with wholeheartedly. I call that negative number rule number 2. But wouldn't that be this problem? If I may, Zach, wouldn't that be 5 plus negative 5? Adding a negative number? Does that make sense? If you add, because it depends on what number you're adding. In this case, you're adding a 5 to negative 5. Now we're adding a negative 5. Is the answer any different?
No, because it's the same thing in a different order of operation.
Here, thank you for that. That was wonderful. If you start with 5, now you're over here. And if you add a negative 5, it doesn't matter. Order of operations says it doesn't matter. Actually, technically speaking, Zach, if I may get super picky, that isn't order of operations as much as it's a property of mathematics. What is 1 plus 2. What is 2 plus 1? What is 7 plus 3? What is 3 plus 7? What is 5 plus 6? Why is only one person answering this, Sarah? What is 5 plus 6? Why is only 2 people answering this question? Why is 5 plus 6? What is 6 plus 5?
11.
What is 8 plus 7?
13.
What is
14.
What is What am I getting at here? If you add numbers and reverse the order, does it change? It does not. That's called the commutative property. Don't memorize this. When you add or multiply numbers, the order doesn't matter. In multiplication and addition, it's called commutative because the French word for switchable is commutative. It doesn't work though for subtraction or division. What's 2 divided by 1?
Oh, 1.
2. What's 1 divided by 2? A half. 2. Let's do something easier. Something easier. Something easier. Something easier. 12 divided by 3. 4. 3 divided by 12. 1/4. Right? 3 over. Let's let. Just write it. Maybe we write it instead of 12 divided by 4. Clearly 3. Yes. 4 divided by 12. That's 1/3, isn't it? This is bigger than 1. That's less than 1. So commutativity does not apply to division or subtraction. Damn it! What is 5 minus 3? What is 3 minus 5? Negative 2, right? Negative 2. Let's do it. Number line. 3 minus 5. Yes? Okay, maybe a little bit. So Zach, thank you for that. I appreciate that. A little more math history, so to speak. We go with this? Does it make sense? Okay, maybe. Okay. So Zach, we kind of jumped the gun. I'm glad we did, actually. I'm glad we jumped it. And the next example I gave you was 12. What's 10 plus negative 5? What is 10 plus negative 5? So you can just use the rule. Really, if you think about it, negative numbers rules 1 and 2 kind of make sense. When you add a positive, you're moving to the right because it's getting bigger. When you add a negative, some of you are probably like, why are you adding a negative, Sean? Isn't adding a negative the same thing as... And I know y'all learned that at some point. That's the definition of subtraction, isn't it? Subtracting is the same as adding a negative. Think about that. Subtracting is the same. Andy, go! I thought you had a point. I saw this.
Oh, no, I'm
You were just moving. I'm sorry. I'm like getting into TV and I see
No,
motion
okay.
and I'm like,
I made like a noise.
did you make a noise? I can't hear that because I'm usually talking. Am I recording this? Damn it, for Abby. We are recording this. This is good. You get all the sound effects. This is good. So yeah, subtraction is defined to be adding an opposite, otherwise known as moving to the left on a number line. Subtracting, as long as you're subtracting a positive number. That's where it gets interesting today, is what happens when you subtract negative. We'll get to that too. We'll get to later on today. Okay, good so far? How about 13? Negative 10 plus a negative 5. We gotta vote for negative 15. How's negative 15 sound? Makes sense, yeah? Talk me through it. Why does it make sense?
You're adding two negatives.
Thank you. You're adding a negative, which means you're starting at negative 10 and then moving left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to keep track, make the number line bigger, but you move 5 down, negative 15. And then to drive home the point of subtraction, I put negative 10 minus 5. A bit of a trick question, yes? Not really. It's not really a trick question. It's just making you realize that negative 10 minus 5 is? Negative 15. I wasn't sure if I should call this a negative numbers rule, so I called it Rule 2A. Adding a negative is the same as subtracting a positive. Now you might ask yourself, Sean, why did you do that? We know that. Why do you got to give it a name? I got my reasons. You can tell me if they suck later, but I think it's good. If history is a guide, they don't suck, hopefully. Or at least if they suck, it just sucks a little bit. Okay. Now what I want you to do is I'd like you to switch over to the next page, number 15. Yes. 10 minus a negative 5.
13.
You add
So what's the result? 15. 15. 15. Anybody else say 15? 15. 15. Abby? I can't talk to Abby, it's Karen. We're saying 15, Abby. Good luck on your exam too. Hope it went well. This is kind of crazy. She'll be watching this later, so that won't make sense. It's like Back to the Future right now. Yes. Why is it 15? Why is it 15, Haley? Give me more than that. Keep talking through that. But the answer was because it's a double negative. Keep talking.
So it's subtracting a negative number, which is pretty much adding a positive.
So it sounds to me, if I may put words in your mouth, but I think this is what you're saying. You're kind of treating a negative number like an opposite of a number. Like -2 is the opposite of 2. -3 is the opposite of 3. I like that a lot, Haley. I think that's going to serve us well, yeah? I think that's going to serve us beautifully. Let's put that on the notes somewhere. That when you talk about negative numbers, when you talk about negative numbers are opposites of their positive counterparts. Let's see. Opposites. If you look at the number line, I think it makes a lot of sense. So when you look at the number line, there's a really, really special number that's neither negative nor positive. It's the only one. It's neither negative nor positive. It's a number. We're gonna fight about this. We're gonna fight about this, aren't we? Here we go. We're gonna have to fight about it. Now you're gonna kick my ass, I'm an old frail man. Which one's neither negative nor positive? 0. That's the special one. That's the divider of the line. That's where your opposites go. I'm gonna swing the camera this way a little bit, Abby, so you can see it better. Okay, swing around here. There's our number line. Camera is panning too fast. Okay, hopefully that's okay. So you got this number in the quote-unquote middle of the number line. So when we say that negative numbers are opposites of their positive counterparts, what's another way of saying that? What's another way of saying that by using the number 0 to help you describe it? What's another way of saying that? I'm just picking random negative numbers and then pairing them with their positive counterparts. Is that okay?
Can you say that it's mirroring the other numbers?
Say it again.
It's mirrored.
We have a vote for it's mirrored. In order for it to be a mirror, it has to be mirrored over something. What's it mirroring over?
0.
Love it! Mirroring over 0. When you look in a mirror, what do you see? The reflection, which is exactly the what of you. It's exactly the opposite of you. Everything's backwards, right? You never really see what you look like because you never get to see yourself from the outside. You look in a mirror, you're like, oh, that's bad. No. That's all backwards, right? Remember you told me to tattoo wire across my forehead? But I would do it wrong. I would do it backwards. And upside down probably, because I'm me, I know myself. So yeah, I like the word mirror. It's the same distance one way as the other over 0. I like that. I a whole lot, yeah. You've got the same distance there, the same distance there. So I like your definition, Haley. I like your definition. I called it negative numbers rule 2b.
Wrong name.
Is that okay?
Wrong name. You said here.
Didn't Haley say that though? Oh no, she was talking about how subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive.
Okay.
Trish gave us the definition of what opposite meant in terms of me. I'm throwing back a couple minutes. I'm sorry. I can't believe I should keep track of that. Holy hell. So I think that makes sense. If adding a negative means moving to the left, then subtracting a negative must mean moving to the right. Does that make sense? You hear what I'm avoiding by saying that too, Haley? What did you say that I didn't say? I'm gonna say both those things again, because I said a lot of stuff right then, right? Here's both those things I just said. I said, if adding a negative means moving to the left, Then subtracting a negative means moving to the right. You said something else. It started with the letter D,
Double negative.
double negative. Why am I avoiding using that? Don't answer that right now. Let's take our 5. 5. Let's take our 5, let's wander around, and see if you can think about why I don't like using the phrase double. I'm not saying you can't, you can use it if you want to. I'm just not gonna use it, okay? Take 5, let's think about why I don't like saying double negative. We'll be back, Abby.